What is an annotated bibliography? So what is an annotated bibliography? An annotated bibliography is, I would call it a personalized summary of an article or of a book or of a book chapter. And annotated bibliographies are great. They're a great thing to learn and understand and utilize in your college career, because over time, you're just going to have, let's face it, you're going to have too much stuff to read, especially if you're in grad school. Annotated bibliographies are genius for grad school because you're going to have all these readings, and what you're going to need to do is summarize them somehow in a succinct, quick, well-organized way. So you can kind of quickly go back and literally remember what you've read. So how do you do these? Now, there's a lot of different ways to do an annotated bibliography. All right, I'm going to give you guys my way. It's worked well for me over the years, and this for my students. I have them do this because I think it's such a worthwhile skill. So first, you put the reference at the top, which feels weird because don't references go at the bottom, right? But in this one case, it's an annotated bibliography, meaning you're describing the reference. So the reference is at the top, right? And right there with the reference itself, you want to make sure the reference is in the right style, right? So depending on what kind of journals you read, depending on what department you're in, right? In anthropology, maybe we're going to do the American Anthropological Association style, right? Or the Society for American Archaeology style, this sort of thing. Meaning there's different styles, there's different ways to write the bibliography itself. You know, the author's name almost always goes first, but then is it the reference itself? Is it the date? Where does the publishing thing go? What are the tabs in there? What is italicized and what's not? You want to make sure you get the reference style correct. First and foremost, right at the top, write it in the correct style and be really nitty gritty about this. You got to have all the stuff right, okay? Because if you're going to use this later, let's say you're going to use it for like a dissertation or the bibliography for a book or an article or something, you need that stuff right off the bat. So first and foremost, correct style for the reference itself. All right, once you put that on, now, for me, you can do this from anywhere from a line or two to several paragraphs. I think dividing it into kind of 2 paragraphs works best. For the first paragraph, you're basically just summarizing the article in your own words. All right? So you're just telling me what the article or the book chapter is about. What's this thing about? Couple lines, right? To jog your memory. Oh, right. This is the one about Darwin and evolution in 1859, whatever it may be, right? So you have that personalized summary. Again, it's in your own words, okay? So you use that for kind of the first paragraph. And then the second paragraph, you do some specific aspect of the article that was important to you or you found interesting, because so often with annotated bibliographies, you're going to be reading, let's say you're going to read 10 different articles, but it's all for one purpose. It's like, yeah, I really need to know about the stone tools from the Mesolithic period. So in each of those articles, if I'm doing an annotated bibliography, I'm going to read it. I'm going to put the first paragraph about, oh yeah, this article is about this. And then the second paragraph, I'm like, specifically, this is what it says about the stone tools of the Mesolithic. Because so often with these articles, right, you're just kind of like, you're looking for the piece that you need. And I might even include a quote or two, right? And in that case, you want to do the quote perfectly and then cite that quote, the page number, and you do the citation based on the overall style that you're using, right? I find that to be a really worthwhile way of doing it. Again, you have the citation, then you kind of have paragraph 1, the summary, paragraph 2, the specific thing you want to remember from this, the specific thing that was important to you about this article. And that's it, right? It really is that straightforward. If you're a grad student, you'll get used to doing these pretty quick. And like kind of as you read the article, you kind of make some notes to yourself. Maybe you type it up. You know, I found that it was really worthwhile to kind of type these up and sort of keep them all together in a folder. For my students, make sure it is in your own words. Don't cheat. How do you cheat an annotated bibliography? The number one thing I see is that they'll open, let's say it's a book chapter. They'll read the book chapter, and then if the sentence says, in 1859, Darwin found a skull, they'll write, in 1859, Darwin found some skulls, right? It's like a light refresh of what the author actually said. That's plagiarism. That's copying in your own words. What's the easiest way to do this in your own words? The easiest thing to do is to read the article first, close it, and then write it down. Then you're writing it from your short-term memory. That's the way to do it, right? It needs to be in your own voice, in your own words. Again, every semester I do this. Somebody cheats this sucker. Why destroy your college career, right? Write it in your own words. And don't be telling me that, oh, since you changed the word skull to skulls, oh, it's my own words. No, it's not. Don't be telling me, oh, I didn't know. I didn't realize. I am not a cheater. Yes, you are. So again, your own words. And more importantly, I want to hear your own words. I don't want to see some crappy, weird refresh of what's already been said. I want to hear your own words. I want to hear your own take. I want to hear your own vibe, right, on the material, because that is ultimately absolutely what matters in this. It's your take on the material. You bring this material down and make sense of it and show me that you've made sense out of it, right? Grad students out there, do these suckers, dude. Write them down. Keep them in a file all together. If you're working on your dissertation, just start knocking these out. Do not worry about, there's a lot of like bibliography programs out there. Don't worry about that stuff. Just do it in Word. It doesn't matter what program you use, right? As long as you just do it and get it done. Okay? See you next time.